friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction being the 654. Day in the neighborhood. My brothers and sisters. Thank God it is Friday once again, Bean Team. And this Friday is a very special Friday. Because we going back to who? Ryan from Tragedy Tales. Back to Tragedy Tales, Bean Team, to check out his newest video. And the title of it is Wedding of Death, 5 Fatal Events number 3. Now these fatal events, y'all, it just be so effed up to me. It be so messed up to me because these people actually go to these events expecting to have the time of their life, and these events that they go to end up ending their life. You know what I'm saying, man? It's just so freaking crazy how you can leave your home going to have a good time and it can end up being your last time alive. But I digress. We gonna go and get into the video, y'all. But before we get into it, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you may need. Get what you need, please. We are back to Ryan from Tragedy Tales. Y'all got what y'all need. Y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
Do you know, every time I make one of these videos, I'm reminded that even when safety is carefully considered, attending an event, a concert or an air show comes with risks. A fire could break out, a crash could occur, or a plane could come tumbling straight out of the sky. While it's important not to dwell on these possibilities, it's worth remembering that things can go wrong in an instant, and your life can end within seconds.
Facts.
But hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, I'm Ryan from Tragedy Tales, and over here we cover all things tragic. Today, once more, we're diving into 5 more events that sadly turned fatal. From a freak stage collapse in Mexico, to an absolutely terrifying wedding fire in Iraq. This week we've got a range of disasters that are sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. So grab a drink and draw the curtains. Let's get right into it.
Get whatever you may need. Number 5.
I don't know about you guys, but I think nightclubs are awesome. However, not gonna lie, now I'm 25, I don't really visit them as much as I did when I was younger. But the lights, the sounds, the crowds of people bobbing to the beat, it's all a good time, isn't it? The only thing I don't like about nightclubs is how crowded they get. You're waiting 10 years to get a drink, all the corridors and dance floors are usually packed beyond capacity, you can barely move. While being overcrowded isn't usually an issue beyond the odd scuffle, when organisers don't plan correctly and then something goes wrong, it goes spectacularly wrong. Within the space of just a moment, nightclubs can turn into a horrifying death trap, and this entry is sadly yet another example. With that in mind, this entry begins on the cold, early morning of December the 5th, 2009, in Perm, Russia. Running down the centre of Perm is Kuybyshev Street, and nestled along it was the Lame Horse Hotel. The Lame Horse Hotel, constructed in the early 20th century, was initially used for housing celebrations like birthdays and corporate events. However, in the 1990s, following the collapse of the Soviet Union, the building was repurposed into a nightclub. Over time, it was renovated and modified to reflect its new purpose, and by the early 2000s, it was known by all the locals as the Lame Horse nightclub. In its nightclub phase, the Lame Horse became one of Perm's leading entertainment venues, attracting swathes of young people every weekend who considered it the place to be. This was no exception on the night of December the 4th, 2009. That night, the club was hosting its anniversary celebration, and because of this, the venue was packed to its capacity, with over 300 people reportedly in attendance. That night, the celebrations included music, dancing, as well as an indoor fireworks display to ramp up the party atmosphere.
And that's where they effed up at. These freaking indoor firework displays, man. No, keep the fireworks out freaking side, y'all. Like, seriously, man. And then another thing that Ryan showed that I hate about these nightclubs, and he talked about it, and I have been in these type of nightclubs where you literally cannot even move for real. Like, you touching shoulder to shoulder with people. It be that packed in there like some freaking sardines. And then when a fire break out, people gonna start getting trampled on. People not gonna be able to make it out before they die from smoke inhalation and all that ish. It make you freaking paranoid and not want to even go to freaking nightclubs no more. Long story short, short story long. Especially those type where it's just compacted to the highest of capacities or whatever the freak I supposed to be trying to say. But y'all know what I mean. Let's go.
Now, the anniversary night was going as well as you'd expect until around 1 a.m. It was finally time for the indoor fireworks display, something that all the guests were looking forward to. Guests were unaware that these fireworks were in fact outdoor fireworks and banned for indoor use. Yes, you know exactly where I'm going with this one. As the crowd eagerly awaited the epic display, one of the performers threw a cold flame pyrotechnics into the air, and as he did, the sparks hit the ceiling and instantly ignited it.
Очень люблю женщин, которые созрели, зрелые, красивые, желанные, обаятельные. Дамы и господа, юбилей клуба, мы горим. Выходим из зала.
Oh, hell no. I would have been concerned from the beginning. That at the beginning stages of that fire don't even look right on that top of that ceiling.
Tiny flame quickly spread across the plastic ceiling, and within a moment, the whole room turned into a blaze. As the fire erupted from the ceiling, the events coordinator told guests to leave through the entrance, but the wooden decorations that had lined the interior walls at this point had already caught fire, meaning that most people couldn't move. These highly combustible materials filled the building with thick, toxic choking smoke, and as the fire started spreading, it damaged the electricity, plunging the club into complete darkness.
Damn.
Just put yourself in this situation. You're probably drunk, in a nightclub, you're tired, it's late at night, you suddenly see a fire and try to head for the exit, and then suddenly the lights go out. There's people packed every side of you, front and behind, left and right. You can't move an inch, but you also can't breathe because of the smoke, and you've got flames racing towards you. The nightclub had become something straight out of a nightmare as panicked crowds surged towards the single main entrance. While there was in fact a secondary exit nestled behind the stage, these doors weren't lit up by the usual emergency lighting, so most had no idea that they existed. As partygoers rushed to safety, the entrance doors finally swung open, and when they did, they flooded the club with oxygen, further fueling the flames and causing the fire to burn even more aggressively. As the inferno raged, black smoke filled the room, and the ceiling began dripping molten burning plastic on those trying to escape below. Everyone panicked. It was suddenly every man for themselves. Within the space of minutes, a deadly chain reaction unfolded as 300 people tried to squeeze through the bottlenecked single main exit. In the chaos, some ran to any room that they could find. Some people found their way to the toilets, discovering that they were now trapped. As burnt guests finally made it outside, many stumbled out with horrific burns. Lots of people had been seared by the flames and the intense heat while trying to escape. Those who weren't gravely injured faced brutal minus 16-degree temperatures outside as they waited for ambulances. As the fire raged on, many survivors dialed for emergency services, but the response was shockingly slow. It reportedly took crews and ambulances 20 minutes to arrive, and by then, most of the damage was done. Firefighters got to work saving people and putting out the flames, but when they recovered individuals, they then left them half-clothed and rushed back in to save more. This, of course, was no good because they left victims lying on the ground for over an hour in the brutal Russian winter.
Hold on now, these emergency services over there in what is that, Russia, I think Ryan said, wherever the freak is at, they not doing a good job. Number one, you're 20 minutes late. You know what I'm saying? You arrive 20 minutes later, and then this is really a effed up situation but it's not out of their control. They could have figured something out. Just the fact that it's cold as F outside, you know what I'm saying, man? So now you done took these people who got burns on them, then been inside this freaking club. Now they outside freezing to death. It's like, come on, man, you gotta come up with a better plan or something. I don't know what the plan is, but somebody should have figured out something. I understand you want to go back inside and try to get other people out, but what about the people you already got out? You about to leave them now outside on the ground, outside in the cold, and they still gonna end up passing away. I'm just saying, man, they could do a better job than what they doing.
Because of this, some survivors later succumbed to hypothermia, and many believe that these people could have survived their burns if they hadn't been left to freeze in the bitter cold.
The night at a popular club in the city of Perm started out with dancing and fun. But then the footage shows on-stage fireworks setting the club ceiling on fire. Some standing in a hallway don't yet know what's going on as the crowd pushes through. The lucky ones fight their way through the darkness of the club to safety. But more than 100 people did not survive.
Dang.
About 150 others were injured, dozens critically.
Soon after the tragedy, families had flocked to nearby morgues to locate their loved ones, picking their names out of the long list of the dead. In the days that followed, the death toll grew and grew, reaching a staggering 156 people, with 55 victims dying from severe burns in the hospital. The dead succumbed to crushing injuries, severe burns, as well as smoke inhalation and carbon monoxide poisoning. But as I said, some reportedly also died from exposure after being left in the snow. In the aftermath, Russian President Dmitry Medvedev declared December the 7th a national day of mourning. Soon after, high-level government officials descended on Perm to aid victims, investigate the tragedy, and assign blame. After a thorough investigation, it seems that the main issue here was the fact that the club owners allowed the use of outdoor fireworks inside. But to be honest, all of this was just an accident waiting to happen. It turns out the building only had a license to hold 50 guests. It was truly never meant to facilitate large crowds. They had only one clearly marked exit, making evacuation very difficult. The club also lacked critical fire safety features such as sprinklers and alarms, or even a fire extinguisher, failings that the owners had repeatedly warned to fix, but chose to ignore. In addition to the lack of safety systems, the club's renovation work, that converted it from a hotel to a nightclub, was not done to any standard. There was not a single official check on the work that was carried out, and when it was checked after the blaze, the club's design differed to what the planning permission had stated. It was missing a large window that would have allowed crowds to escape. When turning it from a hotel to a nightclub, they followed no safety guidelines. They just did whatever they wanted and lined the interior with highly flammable soundproofing foam, as well as wooden panels. Add fireworks to the mix and something was bound to go wrong eventually. On the 8th of December, when President Putin visited, he acknowledged that local and federal officials were also partly responsible for the deaths and the fire. On the same day that Vladimir visited, 7 officials were dismissed from Perm's Fire Safety Supervision Authority. So someone clearly had messed up here. Sadly, this tragedy was eerily similar to the Station nightclub fire that occurred in the US 6 years earlier. This raises haunting questions as to why nothing was learnt. Why did they put the soundproofing panels up, knowing that they're flammable, and why did they use outdoor fireworks inside? It just boggles the mind. In 2012, after a lengthy court battle, the manager of the club received a 6.5-year sentence, and the co-owner was sentenced to 4 years in prison. The head of the pyrotechnics company that supplied the fireworks was also charged with negligent manslaughter, and the nightclub staff that were working that day failed crowd safety and received fines as well as short sentences. However, the following year, in 2013, the owner was finally convicted of criminal negligence as well as safety violations and was sentenced to 9 years and 10 months in prison, with his appeal being instantly denied. These sentences felt insignificant to the lives lost, but at the time, holding anyone accountable for fire safety violations in Russia was a rare step forward. This tragedy promoted sweeping fire safety reforms all across Russia, implementing way stricter inspections, improved emergency exits, as well as mandatory sprinklers and alarm systems in all public venues. While these changes may prevent future disasters, for the 156 victims of the Lame Horse Fire, they of course come far too little and far too late.
Man, too little, too late for them 156 people, but I do hope that they fix their regulations over there, they safety, whatever. I hope they get it better over there in Russia now from this tragedy, man. But I just want to say about those dudes who did get sentenced. Like Ryan said, them sentences, them little couple of years, 4 years, 5 years, the owner got 9 years, 10 months. That is so insignificant to 150 some people losing their life. You know what I'm saying, man? I don't know, y'all. I feel like all of them should have got more years in there. I probably can make the argument that the owner at least should have got life in prison, man. You got 156 people blood on your hand. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, dude, what the freak, man? And it ain't the first time that we have heard of a story like that from Ryan about in the club and setting off a firework. You know what I'm saying? But it still will always be so shocking. And I feel like pretty much a lot of people or everybody involved in this story dropped the ball, from the owners to the people who was over the club to the fire inspectors who really ain't do their job to the freaking EMS who showed up late and had people outside who ended up dying from hypothermia. Like, it's a lot of places where you can place blame in this freaking case, man. But rest in peace to all those 156 people that lost their lives. And let's go to number 4. Number 4.
In air shows, where planes are flying about like madmen through the sky, sometimes ego can make pilots do stunts for crowds that they really, really shouldn't. The exhilaration of the moment gets the better of them, and when you're flying a 6.5-ton aircraft at 600 miles an hour, a single lapse in judgment can spell disaster. This entry begins on Saturday, August the 22nd, 2015, in the cute coastal village of Shoreham-by-Sea in West Sussex. Now, that fine weekend was the perfect day for an air show. As it was the peak of summer, it was hot and sunny with a very slight breeze in the air. This fine weather attracted around 20 to 30,000 people to the annual air show held at Shoreham Airport. For a bit of background, the Shoreham Air Show was a 2-day air show that started in 1989 as a charity fundraiser organised by the Royal Air Force Association to support the welfare of veterans as well as their families. Over the years, the air show grew into a popular family event that attracted people from all across the UK. The Shoreham Air Show was known for its displays of historic as well as modern aircraft, attracting a wide range of aviation enthusiasts as well as general spectators alike. That year, anticipation was high, just like in the previous years. In the morning, the gates swung open and crowds filled the airport with their kids, eager to see some aircrafts flying above them. The morning opened with the Blades aerobatic team, they then had the RAF Falcons, and finally, to end the morning, crowds were amazed by a performance by the Tiger IX aeronautical display team. So the morning went very well. Families were making lasting memories together in the airport's field, blissfully unaware of the tragedy that was about to unfold. For the afternoon...
And I just got to point out real quick, y'all, because I have been to an air show before, back when I was a little child. I just got to point out that they are freaking cool as elf. If you've never been to an air show before, man, go to one. But when you watch videos like this, it make you not want to go to one when you watch Mr. Ryan from Tragedy Tales. But seriously, man, it is cool to see, man. I went to one when I was a little child, and I was very excited, and it was very just amazing seeing those planes in the air doing all those tricks and stuff. I just had flashbacks to that, but let's go.
Afternoon, something very special was set to greet the guests. A vintage former military aircraft, a 1950s two-seater Hawker Hunter T-7, piloted by veteran pilot, 51-year-old Andy Hill. Andy was described as a careful and competent pilot. He'd worked as a captain at the British Airways in the past and had over 12,000 flight hours on his record. But strangely, he had only 35 flight hours in this particular aircraft. In an airshow in the previous year, Andy had flown too close to the crowds before turning his plane and ending the display. This lack of care caused the airshow to stop for the day, but it then resumed the next day with no faults. So Andy was an excellent and experienced pilot, but sometimes he would push it too far, and in this 2015 airshow, his luck would finally run out. At approximately 1:22 p.m, Andy was set to make his appearance. The engines of the Hawker Hunter T7 started up. Before long, the Hunter took to the sky and commenced its display, starting with a low pass along the runway from south to north. People must have thought that this was epic as the plane rocketed past them. Coming back from this low pass, however, as the aircraft neared the airport, Andy decided that it would be a perfect time to attempt a loop. He started this loop at a height of only 60 meters and at a speed of only 173 miles an hour. To put it in perspective, this trick should only be attempted at a height of at least 150 meters and at a speed of at least 400 miles an hour. Everything about this maneuver was wrong. Andy was coming in way too slow and way too low to the ground. He later said at this altitude that there was no room for misjudgment. In front of the crowds, the plane attempted to do the loop. It soared far up into the air, and as it came back down, it was clear to see that Andy had miscalculated the trick. The vintage plane plummeted towards the ground, and as Andy pulled upon the stick, it refused to come up. It was useless. He'd simply not left himself enough time.
Where's it gone? There it is. Here it comes. Whoa, look how low it goes. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Boy, that's the case of playing with fire and then getting burned. Like, seriously, no pun intended. I think that he knew that he was not going fast enough, and I think he knew that he was too close to the ground, but he thought he still could pull it off. He played with that fire, and it ended up getting him burned, man. I just hope nobody else was in that location. It looked like the crowd was further away, but let's just see, y'all.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh my word. Oh dear.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a most unfortunate event. Please be assured that everything that can be done is being done. And I thank you for your patience. I thank you for remaining where you are for the moment, whilst we all come to terms with what has happened. We have, for the time being, stopped any further airshow flying. I stress that's a temporary stop.
Despite trying, he failed to pull the plane from its trajectory and crashed on the A27 motorway, travelling at 250 miles an hour. On the motorway, not only were there a few spectators standing watching the show, but the motorway was also completely full of cars, stuck in standstill traffic. The plane impacted the motorway and exploded in a violent plume of fire, throwing burning fuel and plane debris in all directions. Spectators of the airshow saw the plane crash, then saw the smoke rising, but had no idea of what had just happened. It was a complete catastrophe. West Sussex's fire team and rescue service were first on the scene, but they'd seen nothing quite like it. The impact of the plane was brutal. Anyone caught in its path of destruction just didn't stand a chance. In total, 11 people on the ground were killed, and 16 others were injured in the crash, making this the deadliest airshow accident in the United Kingdom since the 1952 Farnborough Airshow, which killed 31. Whilst the majority of those killed intended to be by the side of the road watching the display, some people that were killed had no interest in the airshow at all. Some of them had no idea what had hit them. Amazingly, against all odds, the pilot actually survived the crash. He was put into a coma and eventually came out of it, This incident quickly reached worldwide news, and the haunting footage shocked everyone. After the incident, the second day of the airshow on August the 23rd was cancelled. Shoreham closed its doors to the public and never hosted an airshow again. Now, the police did question Andy after he woke up from his coma, and he stated that he had no idea what had happened and that he didn't remember the crash, failing to come up with a reason as to why it occurred. Other professional pilots have watched the footage back, and many of them have stated that there was multiple times where he could have corrected the course of the trick, but just failed to do so. Against his wishes, his pilot's license was revoked on the spot, which is probably for the best.
Yes.
Many locals and victims alike showed complete anger towards Andy for attempting a risky stunt in front of crowds when he just shouldn't have. In 2019, it was time for him to face the music. Andy appeared in court charged with 11 counts of manslaughter by gross negligence. After the trial, a jury found him not guilty and he was released scot-free.
What the freak? Not guilty of at least manslaughter. I'm not even saying murder or second degree murder, but it's at least freaking manslaughter, man. He was being negligent as elf. You know what I'm saying? Had no regard for human life. And it shocked me when Ryan revealed that he actually crashed into a highway or something, interstate, expressway, whatever the freak you want to call it, with all those cars out there, y'all, because at first we couldn't even see it. It just looked like he maybe had crashed into the forest or something, which I was hoping would be the case, but no, he landed directly onto traffic with this ish, and 11 people lost their lives, man. And it's just me not even being a pilot or not knowing nothing at all about flying planes, just me being an average Joe, and y'all out there being team, just being the average Joe out there, could tell what he was doing was not smart. He was too low to the ground and he was going too slow. Man, he got away with this ish scot-free? Wow.
He gave evidence in his own defence. He talked about the tragedy, tried to explain his actions, but didn't apologise to families of those who died who were in court. A cockpit camera suggested Andy Hill was conscious during his routine, but his defence successfully argued he must have been cognitively impaired. The prosecution had argued that Mr. Hill had made other errors at airshows, but his friends defended his record.
I've never known him take any risks. He, amongst many others, including myself, will have made small errors during the course of our flying careers, but he was a very disciplined, a very focused individual, took a great deal of interest in the detail of every sortie.
1,295 days ago, I lost control of an aircraft. A number of people were injured. I'm truly sorry for the part I played in their deaths, and it is they that I will remember for the rest of my life.
In 2019, following a close consultation with the victims' families, the local council built a memorial tribute near the Shoreham Toll Bridge to forever remember those who perished in this unthinkable tragedy. 11 silver metal arches were constructed and engraved with the names of the dead, a somber reminder of the lives lost. Now, this crash significantly impacted airshows all across the UK, leading to sweeping regulation changes. Vintage jet aircraft displays over land were restricted to only high-level flypasts and strictly banned any form of aerobatic manoeuvres. Amazingly, in October of 2024, against the wishes of victims' families, Andy again applied for his complete pilot's license, hoping to take to the skies once more, only to be denied almost instantly. Now, this was all just a shocking tragedy where ultimately nobody was held responsible. It's heartbreaking, but I'm interested in your thoughts below.
Man, my first thought is you got the audacity to try to be a pilot again? Really? Like, come on, dude, are you effing serious? At least I'm happy that they denied him, rejected that application to become a pilot again. Like, you got some freaking nerve, dude. You just called 11 people to lose their lives because you was being careless and you got away with it. Then spend no time in freaking jail, and now you want to go back to doing what you did to cause these people their lives? No. At some point, the buck stops here. You know what I'm saying, big team? Like, no. And then it's just so crazy how life is, man. The fact that he survived that ish We all seen the crash. We seen the flames, the plane, the debris, the freaking tragedy unfold in front of us. And he survived that ish, but innocent people who just driving on the highway who had no idea what hit them. Just imagine that, being team. You just driving down the highway and then boom, you just dead. Don't know how you died. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happened to some of those people. They don't even know how they freaking died, but some kind of way this asshole survived. It's just when they time to go, man. That's just where I go back to it, man. It's just when they time to go. I mean, his time to go, but it was daytime to go. And let's go to number 3. Rest in peace to those 11. Number 3.
Campaign rallies are events of promise as well as spectacle, where leaders and supporters come together to share a vision of the future. But when so many moving parts collide, logistics, people, as well as unpredictable forces, things can often take a turn that nobody expects. With that in mind, this entry brings us to the northeastern city of San Pedro Garza in Mexico, on May the 22nd, 2024. In May of 2024, Mexico prepared for its highly anticipated elections. On May the 22nd, a campaign rally set up in San Pedro Garza marked a pivotal moment in the local political race. A woman named Lorena Canavati, who led the event, was her party's candidate for mayor of San Pedro Garza, but this rally was also attended by George Alvarez Maynez, the party's presidential candidate, further underscoring the rally's significance. On that fateful day, together they gathered 10,000 supporters at the El Obispo baseball field for a campaign rally that was sure to leave an impression. It was meant to be the pinnacle of her campaign, complete with high-energy crowds, and afterwards a performance by the beloved local band Bronco. However, by the night's end, what should have been a triumph unraveled into total disaster. Starting at 6 p.m, thousands began gathering at the baseball field, surrounding a temporary stage that had been constructed specially for the occasion. With a civil defense team reportedly confirming its safety, absolutely nothing was out of the ordinary. It was just another rally. At 6:28 p.m, half an hour after opening, the National Meteorological Service issued a fresh alert for northern Mexico, including the state that the rally was being held, Nuevo Leon. This alert forecast heavy rain, as well as fierce winds in that area that could blow down trees and billboards, reaching 40 miles an hour. There was even the potential for tornadoes. This wasn't even the first warning of the day, however. A similar advisory had been released earlier that afternoon, but despite these ominous warnings, the campaign rally continued on. For 2 hours, the rally continued, and the weather just got worse and worse. The winds picked up significantly, blowing plastic coverings wildly into the air. Darkness settled on the rally, and there was a sense that something terrible was about to happen, and that's because it was. At approximately 8 minutes past 8, as the candidates were on stage preparing for the band to play, a sudden, terrible gust of wind swept across the rally. It swept across the stage and caused a large screen and stage rigging to topple forwards. The campaigners scrambled out of the way as the large screen fell forward, and as they dodged the collapsing structure, it then struck the people in the front row.
I just gotta say, man, this was just such a terrible accident waiting to happen, but it was so clear as day that it was gonna happen, man. Like, hold on, time out. This is supposed to be for a campaign event, right? Like, I think this the lady, can't remember her name, but she trying to get you to vote for her, right? Why would I vote for you and you so willingly, just blatantly putting me and everybody else that you invited to this event life in danger? You know what I'm saying? Like, we know it's gonna be bad weather out here, but you and your whole campaign still decide to have this event. Like, you literally can see them on stage before the wind even blew the screen away. You can see it raining like a mother, and the wind blowing the rain, but they still up there smiling and ish. Like, come on, man, we got to do better. We got to be smarter. Let's go.
As the winds blew, just seconds later, the temporary stage also then collapsed forward, trapping and crushing people underneath heavy metal poles. Within a blink of an eye, a total catastrophe had unfolded. several members of the local police department, civil protection, National Guard, as well as even the Mexican army were immediately on hand as they were already close by due to a wave of violence that was in the area. Ambulance lights lit up the darkness and tended to those injured, but there were just so many that had sustained injuries, broken bones, and large gashes that it was hard to deal with all of them. 213 people were injured by the stage, and sadly by the end of the day, 9 people had lost their lives. Tragically, one of them was just a child.
Damn.
A month later, another victim succumbed to his injuries in the hospital, raising the death toll to 10. Immediately following the disaster, the candidates confirmed that they were indeed safe and expressed their deep sadness about the entire event. They said that they had pledged to work together with authorities to provide support to the families and help those that were wounded. They said that they would pay for all the funerals of those killed, but only then did they advise people to shelter from the winds. The decision to continue with the rally came under severe scrutiny by those injured and families of the deceased. Why, when a tornado warning was issued, was this even allowed to continue? It's not like this kind of thing has not occurred in the past. When questioned, organisers claimed that the winds occurred with no warning and that nobody could have predicted it, saying that this thing took us by surprise. There wasn't even a storm forecast for the city. But of course that wasn't true. As stated before, there were 2 warnings that day. Heavy winds were forecast up to 6 hours before the collapse. Sadly, by researching this, I can't find that anyone was held responsible for this, at least as of saying this right now. Officials really should have seen this coming. They should have cancelled the whole thing, but instead they chose to go ahead with their silly rally, injured hundreds of people, and took the lives of 10 innocent individuals.
And see, the thing that Ryan just said is the officials should have seen this coming. They did see this coming. We ain't stupid. They try to play us for stupid, man. Talking about it wasn't no storms or no tornadoes or storm wind and rain in the forecast. Yes, the freak it was. We all got the Weather Channel just like you do. You know what I'm saying, man? Like we seen it. That's how them politicians be trying to do you, man. They try to talk to you like you're crazy and don't know what the freak going on and try to convince you that their word is gospel and they telling you the truth when it's a bold-faced freaking lie, man. And ain't none of them got charged with nothing. If Lorenia, I remember her name now, was similar to my mama name. This lady name is Lorenia. My mama name is Lorena. But now, if I was gonna vote for her, that right there, what she did involving and end up killing 10 people, I wouldn't even vote for her ass no more. That right there will make me change my mind and vote for the other person. I don't even care no more. F you. You know what I'm saying, man? Freaking tragedy, man. Let's go to number 2. Number 2.
In this entry, we're going to a place that I've covered many times before, the diverse country of India, in the Puttingal Temple located in the coastal town of Paravar, on the night of April the 9th, 2016. On that warm Saturday, April night, around 15,000 pilgrims made their way to and gathered at the Puttingal Temple. They'd all made their way there to gather to mark the start of the Hindu New Year. To celebrate the occasion, at the temple, organisers planned a big event, as they did every year. Performers were set to perform, and hundreds of huge fireworks were lined up in a concrete warehouse nearby, ready to be set off. Now, these fireworks were an annual occasion that many look forward to each year because they were so wild and, not to mention, dangerous. Every year, around the start of Hindu New Year, temples all across India create crazy fireworks shows to compete with one another to see who has the most spectacular display. Just looking online, the more extravagant the display, the more appeasement. These events are typically filled with joy and togetherness, but tragedy struck with brutal force on that night. At around 12 PM, the festival began at the temple. Performers, as I said, performed, and then the fireworks were lit. Thousands stood by watching very close, watching them go up in the air, completely unaware that the organisers had been denied permission to light any fireworks that night on the grounds of poor safety. However, board members at the temple chose to ignore these warnings and light them anyway, under pressure from the large crowd. Besides, what could go wrong? It's only a fireworks display. Of course, everyone was having fun, colours filled the night sky, illuminating the darkness. It was brilliant. The fireworks display continued without faults until around 3:30 a.m. when the event was set to end. As the fireworks were lit, one of them, called an amitu, which was supposed to explode in the air and fizzle out, instead fell out of the sky without exploding and fell straight onto the top of the concrete structure where the other fireworks were being stored. The sparks of this firework lit the firecrackers inside, and within just mere moments, a huge instantaneous explosion occurred, one that was so loud that it could be heard hundreds and hundreds of meters away. The stash of the fireworks exploded in a cascade of deadly colours and sparks. The blast obliterated the concrete building, throwing boulders of concrete, pinning some and crushing others.
Damn. Like, you can just see the chain reaction of the explosions. Then right then you can see how close the people are to this ish.
This explosion caused the fire to spread to several adjacent office buildings. They set on fire and collapsed within minutes. Screams of terror filled the night sky as hundreds were scorched by the fireworks and injured by the blast. Dozens were crushed by concrete or were unable to escape before the buildings collapsed, causing the majority of the deaths. A mad scramble ensued as worshippers tried to tend to those in need, many sustaining severe burns doing so. In the space of just minutes, many were dead, and over 400 people had been injured to some degree. Ambulances and fire engines rushed to the scene. The Indian Navy even dispatched a transport aircraft and 2 helicopters to help. The Indian Air Force, Army, as well as the Coast Guard were also reportedly involved. Rescue teams used bulldozers to help clear out the area and lift concrete looking for survivors, but all they found underneath the debris was death. One eyewitness, by the name of Yojita, said that it took hours for firemen to battle the blaze and pull out anyone that they could find alive. Another witness described the scene as a globe of fire, saying that he saw severed limbs, bodies lying in pools of blood, some of them even children. That morning, when the sun finally rose, the scale of the disaster became clear. Dozens and dozens of dead lay lined up on the street, awaiting pickup, while others still lay injured awaiting aid. The nearby hospital and morgue were inundated by the amount of casualties, and by the end of this ordeal, a heartbreaking 111 people lost their lives, leaving 40 more critically wounded. 111 people who went to pay their respects to worship lost their lives. What was supposed to be a night of jubilation sadly ended in a horrifying catastrophe. Many of the dead were charred beyond recognition and would have to be identified by DNA tests. Soon after the incident, attention then turned to who was responsible, and according to various news articles, the temple board members fled the country following the tragedy, knowing that they were guilty, knowing that they shouldn't have lit any fireworks that night, and that they were directly responsible for the deaths of innocent people. Indian news agencies stated that the police were investigating 6 people, all believed to be missing temple board members, as well as the people who organised the fireworks. They were wanted on possible charges of attempted murder, as well as culpable homicide. On April the 11th, 5 men who worked at the temple who were on the run were caught and taken into police custody for questioning. Over the next few days, police further arrested 7 more people in connection to the temple fire, including the president of the temple. Apparently temples have presidents. It turns out that the fireworks that they'd used that night were not suitable for the temple in the first place. They should have never been set off, and this is why officials denied their permission to light them that night. To make things worse, they'd also been storing the fireworks in less than questionable ways, which further compounded the tragedy when it occurred. The Indian Prime Minister called the whole event heartrending and totally avoidable. He announced a compensation package to those who were injured and a $12,000 compensation package to the families of those who were killed. At the same time, he vowed to reassess safety at major events, especially those occurring at temples.
Damn, Ryan, I thought you were going to tell us how much time those dudes got who ended up getting caught. And they so freaking guilty, man. They just guilty by the point that they all tried to flee the country or did flee the country. You know what I'm saying? Because they know they was in the wrong, man. I just hope that at least some of them, I'm trying to think about it, y'all. Like, should I say give them life in prison or not? At least give them some years, man. Give them at least like 20-some years at the very least, if not life in prison, man. Because they caught red-handed with it. Like, seriously, man. They knew that they was not supposed to be lighting those fireworks, and they still end up doing it. So it's just like, and then on top of that, you showed us that you knew that you was in the wrong by what y'all, I'm talking about all of them ran away. You know what I'm saying? It ain't like it was just one or two that tried to flee the country. No, everybody involved in that ish decided to run away because everybody involved in that ish knew what was going on, and they still decided on doing it. Rest in peace to those 111 people who went to go see some fireworks, and the fireworks end up being the end of their lives. Freaking tragedy tales, man. These tragedy tales. We got one more to go, y'all. Let's get to it. Number 1.
This entry begins on the 26th of September 2023, in a country where I don't think I've covered before, the gorgeous country of Iraq, or more specifically Karakosh, situated in the Al-Hamdaniya district in the Nineveh state. The date of the 26th of September was very significant for engaged couple 27-year-old Ravan and 18-year-old Haneen. It was a day they'd both been waiting for, the day of their big wedding. The couple, as well as their families, had planned and organised a big fancy Christian wedding and invited over 1,000 friends and family to attend. After the pair tied the knot, they'd booked a local wedding venue for the party at a place named the Al Haytham Wedding Hall. That day was due to be the day of their lives. It was due to be an unforgettable experience for everyone, one that sadly proved correct for all the wrong reasons. That day, the wedding actually went down without fault. The pair tied the knot, marrying Ravan and his beloved bride Haneen. It was then time for the reception at the Al Haytham Wedding Hall. As darkness settled, hundreds of guests began pouring into the venue. They had smiles on their faces. They were all happy, ready for a good time, ready for a party. The wedding venue that night also continued without fault, until it was time for the bride and groom to share their first dance. To make this first dance extra special and memorable, flares were brought in to be set off inside the venue while they danced. All on camera, the newlywed couple joined arms and danced as the planned flares set off, creating a buzzing electric atmosphere. But almost instantly, in some of the most shocking footage I think I've ever seen, the sparks from the flares quickly ignited decorations draped over the chandeliers and from the ceiling, and the fire spread at an insane rate.
I just gotta point out, y'all, the most shocking thing about watching this footage is how many children is in this footage. How many little girls I see with dresses, even seeing a little couple of boys with they tux on, they suits or whatever, man. That's what's so effed up about it. And we know what's about to happen. Let's go. Oh my God, bro.
Within just seconds, a good portion of the roof had already become covered in flames. It leapt distances across the ceiling in mere moments. As it did, the highly flammable decorations, as well as the plastic composite panels that covered the hall, began dripping down on the guests below. And as I always say, then a total nightmare ensued. As guests began scrambling for the exit, just moments after the fire began, the managers turned off the electricity in the building, believing it to be an electrical fire. This disabled the lights. Things then went from bad to worse as the wedding hall was plunged into darkness. The only thing that was guiding guests to safety as they ran for their lives was the flames burning all around them and above them. Some guests tumbled over each other to escape and were trampled. The flames, as you saw in the clip, moved across the nylon ceiling at a truly shocking rate. Nobody expected it to travel this fast. To make things worse, there was only one fire extinguisher for the whole building, and when they tried to use it, apparently it didn't work. There were no other safety measures installed in the hall, such as fire alarms or even sprinklers. As the main entrance became a deadly bottleneck, toxic smoke began filling the room. People began passing out before they could escape from smoke inhalation. Unfortunately, guests were only made aware of the one exit and entrance, but there was in fact another at the back of the kitchen, and if guests had known about this, many more would have been able to escape. By the time emergency services reached the scene, dozens had already died. Firefighters attempted to fight the blaze, but it was reported that their hoses did not work immediately, and they had issues. The hall was so tight that they really couldn't get in, so a bulldozer was called in to knock openings in the wall to help guests escape. But this only fueled the flames and did little to help those in need. Firefighters tackled the blaze for hours. By the time it was put out, the entire hall had been burnt through. One eyewitness, a 19-year-old boy by the name of Gali, was outside when the fire erupted, and then he realized that he had 5 close friends inside. When he tried to open one of the doors, he described it like hell's doors had opened, describing the scene as a real tragedy, saying that he could do nothing but run from the fire. He said after the firefighters arrived that he was able to look inside for his friends, and while they were fine, he said he saw 26 bodies piled up in the bathroom, as well as a 12-year-old girl who had been completely burnt and left in a corner. I can't actually imagine witnessing that. In total, this tragedy claimed the lives of a horrifying 107 people, leaving 80 with severe life-changing injuries. Whole families were wiped out, and many children were orphaned in the space of a night. Both the bride and the groom suffered minor burns, and the groom, Revan, lost 15 members of his family in the fire. In an interview with him and his wife, he said that his wife can't speak after the loss of 10 of her relatives, including her mother and even her brothers. Absolutely heartbreaking. Again, I can't even imagine what that's like. To lose your family at a wedding in such awful circumstances, it just doesn't bear thinking about. Your wedding is supposed to be filled with happy memories, not horror and death. Locals struggled to grapple with the immense loss. Soon after, the Iraqi Prime Minister ordered an investigation into the fire and asked officials to provide relief to those affected. 14 people were arrested following the incident, including the hall's owner, as well as 4 people involved in setting off the fireworks. However, at the time of writing this, the investigation is still ongoing, and nobody is yet to face justice for this terrible, senseless, and avoidable tragedy.
God damn, y'all. That one right there kind of got me a little choked up a little bit. Especially when you hear, just anyway, regardless, rest in peace to all 107 people. Not 77, 107 people who lost their lives. But when you hear about the fact that the groom and the wife, one of them, the groom lost 15 of his family members in this fire, and the wife lost 10. And I know that they would live with that burden for so long because they are the reason that all their family members was there for what was supposed to be one of the happiest and best and greatest days of their lives. And they end up, and this just how they feel. And I don't blame them at all, but it's not their fault. But I know they gonna feel this way because I know I would feel this way. I think everybody would feel this way. They will always feel like they brought them here. They the reason that they came here. They the reason that their family members end up losing their life. Like, can you imagine freaking having a wedding and inviting your freaking mama and your mama dying at the wedding? And the reason she died was when you was dancing and y'all decided to set off some sparkles or whatever. You get what I'm saying, Bean Team. You would feel so bad for the rest of your life, man. Like, I don't even know if I want to be married no more. Not saying that I will break up with my wife, but I'd be like, man, Let's just not even say we married no more. I don't even want to remember nothing about no wedding, no nothing. I don't even want this ring. You know what I'm saying, man? Oh, let's go. Finishing it up, y'all. We finishing it up.
But that is the end of the video. May all the people featured rest in peace. But holy moly smackaroos, this whole video was mental. It's been a long time since I made any events turn fatal, but it always shocks me how 1 minute everyone's having fun, and the next their lives are snatched away by the most shocking occurrence. But for a quick recap, starting from the top, we've got the Russian nightclub fire. These tragedies are just shockingly sad. It really hurt me to discover that this occurred after the station fire, meaning nothing was learnt from all those years ago. Some business owners are all about the money and literally don't care if they're placing people's lives in danger to do so. It's tragic, but it's true. Then we've got the Mexican rally stage collapse. This was 100% foreseeable, and I'm surprised that nobody was held accountable. Officials enticed over 10,000 people to watch them in the rally in gale force winds. They had 2 warnings and chose to ignore them. People died and nobody was held responsible for it. All they did was pay for their funerals, say sorry, and then tell people to shelter from the weather. Next, we've got the Shoreham airshow disaster. That footage left me literally gawping. I actually recall seeing this all over the news at the time and being shocked back then, but to revisit it years later with the added details, it hits harder. Honestly, I'm not sure what to think of the pilot. Yes, I can imagine the guilt that he has to bear every day is really hard, but it can't be as hard as the pain the families are feeling who now have to live without their loved ones forever. Imagine asking to fly after killing 11 people. It's absolutely wild. But talking about wild, we have the fireworks tragedy. Again, I'm left speechless. Literally everyone who was running that fireworks display knew that it was unsafe to do so, but they continued anyway, leading to a staggering death toll that was entirely avoidable. And last, but certainly not least, the fire in Iraq. I can't say I've ever heard of this case before now, but that footage had me sitting there with my jaw open once more. It's truly shocking how fast that fire spread, and it does make you think, what would I do in that situation? Would I escape first? Would I panic? Would I try to help others? Or would I too perish in the smoke and the flames? The absolute terror that those guests must have been subjected to just does not bear thinking about. The bride and the groom basically lost all their family in a single night and were actually forced to move out of the town because they just couldn't bear staying in the town where their family used to live. It's all shocking and heartbreaking, but most importantly, what did you think of this one? As always, you guys know I tried to read every single comment, so I'm interested as to what you guys think. But just before I go, if you've made it this far and you look down there and you're not subscribed, go down there and smash that subscribe button now, and make sure you tick that notification bell to be alerted at when I release content such as this. But I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.
Another great video from Tragedy Tales, y'all. Man, that last one, I'm telling you, that last one hit me a little harder just knowing that the burn that those people gonna have to live with. I'm talking about the groom and the wife, man. The husband and the wife, like, they gonna have to always, like, I wouldn't even celebrate my freaking, our wedding anniversary would never be a celebration. Seriously, man, like, no, like, that's why I said I wouldn't even want to even say we married anymore. We'll be married, but let's not even address it. And I don't even want the ring, like, because every time I look at the ring, guess what I'm gonna think about? What the freak happened on our wedding day, man. Oh my God, that is just freaking terrible. That's one of them things where one of them will end up going through some like they will never recover from, and they end up dying or doing something crazy or something. That's something you can never ever get over with, y'all. The one before that with the fireworks people who end up. It's crazy that it was literally 14 of them who got out of Dodge, took the F off because they knew they was gonna get charged with that issue because they knew what they was doing was not right, man. And rest in peace to all those people that lost their lives going to a fireworks show. And it was just crazy how that chain reaction of explosions was happening. And it was, you look and see the crowd right there, and it caught on to the buildings. It was just a tragedy tale, man. And I hope that because Ryan did say that all of them got charged, and yeah, pretty much all of them has got charged, but we don't know what the outcome is. But I hope they do face some significant prison time, not jail time, prison time. They need to do some years, man, some freaking years. The one before that with the politicians, like, man, that's just a classic case of politicians want your vote but don't give a damn about your life. That's just a classic case of it, man. Then they just so crazy how even after all that they still blatantly lied and been like there was no indication of bad weather. Man, we all got the Weather Channel, man, on our phone, on TV. You know what I'm saying, man? We all know what the weather is gonna be like hours, days before it happens. They already got predictions out there what it's gonna be, like a 7-day forecast, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, dude, it's just the fact none of them got charged, and like Ryan said, the only thing they did was pay for the people who died funerals. Like I supposed to say thank you to that? F that ish, man. Like I said, y'all, if I was about to vote for that lady, that right there, hell no, you ain't getting my vote. I hope she didn't win. I don't know if she won or not, but I hope after that whole effed up situation, she didn't win. The one before that, y'all, the dude who flew the airplane, like I said, number one, it's just so crazy that he survived and all them other people didn't when he was the one being careless, and it was a big flame, a big crash. He was the only one in the plane, but somehow he freaking survived, and then all those people lost their lives, and then he got the audacity, he got the nerves, he got the gumption to try to be a pilot again after being careless like freaking that, man. Are you freaking kidding me? And he got away with it scot-free. I feel like he should have faced some time his damn self. Just another tragedy tales, y'all. Another tragedy tales. And we started this one off with the nightclub. These nightclub and these goddamn fireworks, man, and then they be so, like I said, man, these nightclubs, a lot of them that I have went to, I gotta admit, they be over capacity, man, like over the capacity. Like Ryan said that it was over 300 people in this nightclub when the capacity was freaking 50. Like, it's just way over the limit that you're supposed to have, man. Then you're doing crazy ish like this, and then people end up losing their lives. And I feel like the EMS, the emergency medical services, they dropped the ball too. The fire safety department that came and was inspecting the building dropped the ball too. The freaking owner and the people, people who work in the nightclub or whatever, they dropped the ball. How the hell you have one fire extinguisher in here? Stuff like that, just basic common knowledge and sense. Like, what the freak, being team? What the freak? But I digress. I'm gonna go and let y'all go now, man. I know we have been here long enough, and I appreciate y'all coming on back as always. And before you leave, just please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And remember this: love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.